Yeah, I found this. I was cleaning out some drawers and stuff. My mother gave it to me years ago, and I was wanting to find out how much it was worth.
This thing looks crazy. What is it?
It's a black widow.
Is it poisonous?
The brooch that Peggy didn't know was worth a fortune. It's not every day someone walks into the pawn shop holding something this rare and this uniquely beautiful. Peggy had inherited the bronze brooch from her mother years ago, but it had been tucked away, forgotten, until she stumbled across it while cleaning. The second Rick laid eyes on it, he knew there was something special going on. This wasn't just another antique, it had weight and history. Whatever it wasn't just valuable in dollars and cents. It meant something.
Just a spider brooch. It's got a lot of crystals and stuff on it. I don't like spiders, so I just wanted to get rid of it.
Do you know what you have here?
No, not at all.
This is Fabergé. Fabergé was one of the most famous jewelry designers in the world. He was the jeweler to the Russian court.
Peggy wanted to get rid of the brooch because she didn't like spiders. With all its crystals and stuff, she wondered if it might actually be worth something. And it turns out she was right. More than right, actually. The brooch was a creation of none other than Peter Fabergé, one of the most legendary jewelry designers in history. This is the same man who crafted masterpieces for the Russian imperial court. His name alone carries serious weight in the jewelry world.
That's onyx underneath there. This white metal right here, that is all platinum. Those are diamonds. There's sapphires in the feet. Those are rubies in the eyes. This is the kind of stuff that royalty wears. It's absolutely beautiful.
I can't believe this woman had a Fabergé brooch sitting around in a drawer somewhere.
Peter Fabergé was best known for what became known as Fabergé eggs. And get this, the most expensive one was valued at around $2 million. That alone said a lot about how valuable Peggy's brooch could be. But there was even more to it. The brooch turned out to be a piece of pre-revolution Russian imperial jewelry crafted with onyx, white metal, platinum, diamonds, sapphires, and rubies. This wasn't something made for the average person. It was the kind of item designed for royalty. Everything about it, from the materials to the craftsmanship, spoke of wealth, power, and prestige.
How much were you looking to get out of it?
Couple thousand.
Okay. I would really like to give you like $2,000 for it, but unfortunately I have a conscience. All right, I'll cut to the chase. I'll give you $15,000 for it.
Peggy hadn't been expecting that. She was hoping for a couple thousand, just enough to get rid of it. Clearly, the spider design really wasn't her thing, but Rick had a surprise in store. The brooch was worth far more than she ever imagined. He offered her $15,000. From the look on her face, it was obvious. She hadn't seen that coming, not even close. Who would have thought that cleaning out the closet could lead to that kind of payday?
I will give you 15. That's more than a fair offer on this.
How about 15.5?
This is why I hate having a conscience. This is Vegas, and I just told this woman she hit the jackpot, and now she wants another spin.
I can pay you 15 grand. That's more than a fair offer on this. This is not something that's going to sell overnight.
All right, you're a good man.
Okay.
Thank you.
Peggy was pretty brilliant. Once she realized the brooch was worth something big, she started trying to raise the price. $17,000? $16,500? But Rick didn't budge. He'd already offered her the best price, and eventually, she accepted. Still, you couldn't help but wonder, what if she'd known the brooch's true worth before walking into the store? Could she have gotten even more? Either way, she left feeling like she'd hit the jackpot that day.
Hello, how are you?
What do we got here?
This is a Marc Chagall print that I have for you.
Okay. Do you know who Marc Chagall was?
Sort of.
Very famous painter. He's a post-impressionist. You know the difference between like impressionism and post-impressionism?
Not really.
The easiest way I always explain it to people, blurry. Post-impressionism, really blurry.
The Marc Chagall print that shocked Melissa. Melissa walked in with a Marc Chagall print in hand. Marc Chagall, a world-renowned Belarusian Jewish artist, had made a name for himself in Paris in the early 20th century. A post-impressionist painter, Chagall was known for his vibrant, surreal work. This particular print was part of a larger series called Daphnis and Chloe, which he completed between 1956 and 1961. Melissa was hoping to get at least $1,000 for it, no less. She was counting on the money to help cover some bills she'd been meaning to pay.
Really just doesn't go with the decor of my house.
All right. There's probably like 24 artists where you just look at their art and go, okay, that's Picasso or Picasso-esque.
Right.
Or Renoir. Chagall is one of those people. Marc Chagall, 500 years from now, they'll still be paintings and they'll still be worth money.
Marc Chagall was a pretty big deal, and like Rick said, 500 years from now, they'd still be talking about him. In 2017, his painting Les Amoureux sold at a New York auction for a staggering $28.5 million. And yet, here was Melissa, hoping to sell a Chagall print for just $1,000. It seemed pretty low, but hey, the expert would be the judge of that. After all, this was the same artist who painted the entire ceiling of the Paris Opera House, a feat not many can claim.
It looks like a lithograph. It means stone, and graph means writing.
Okay.
So it's stone writing. So originally what it was is they would take stones, a big giant piece completely flat, and they would etch into it the image.
Oh, wow.
Okay, one for each color. Each impression you would carve in what would be.
The print was a lithograph, and Rick knew his stuff when it came to this technique. Lithography allows for crisp lines and subtle color changes that aren't achievable with other artistic mediums. Chagall, in particular, was known for using up to 25 individual colors in just one lithograph, showcasing his mastery of the craft.
So how much you want for it?
I don't, maybe around $1,000 or so.
You get any paperwork on it?
I don't have any paperwork with it.
Marc Chagall asked until we make sure it's.
Yes.
Give me a minute or two. Let me get someone down here to take a look at it so we can figure out exactly what.
Sounds
okay?
great.
I'll be right back.
Rick really took his time explaining the details of the print to Melissa. She appreciated the information, but what she really wanted was the cash. Of course, without confirmation, Rick wasn't going to offer even $1 for a piece from such a famous artist. An expert needed to verify if it was an original. Only then could they discuss whether her asking price was too low or too high. For a Chagall piece, it was probably too low. But until the expert weighed in, they couldn't say for sure.
That is an image by Chagall. So discovered lithography after he was already very, very famous. He started doing lithography at the age of 63. The person he learned it with was the absolute master. Chagall brought his skills as a painter and as a colorist to this medium, standards of all lithography.
The expert quickly identified the print as Captain Bryaxis's Dream, one of Chagall's most famous images. The image came from Daphnis and Chloe, a 2nd century Greek poem. Chagall had been inspired to create this collection while honeymooning in Greece in 1952. It was released as an illustrated book, and if you looked closely at the print, you'd notice some creases. It was a double panel work. Because this was the only double panel piece in the entire set, it was considered a bit more valuable.
The big question, what's it worth?
If this was in a gallery, San Francisco, New York, it's worth at least $8,000.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you $3 grand for it.
Well, that's kind of low. He just said it was
That's in a nice gallery in San Francisco where they have really high markups. What is your best price on it?
6,000.
I'll give you $4 grand.
5.
$500, not a penny more.
I'll take 45. Deal.
Not only would Melissa be able to pay off her bills after this sale, but she'd also have a little extra to treat herself. The print was worth $8,000, and she had originally wanted to sell it for just $1,000. In the end, she sold it for $4,500 and walked out of the store a very happy woman. It was a good thing she hadn't just hung it on her wall, staring at it every day, knowing deep down it didn't quite fit.
I actually think I can help. What I'm hoping is a very, very old, very rare coin.
Cool.
I figured I'd come in, and if it's worth what I think it's worth, a substantial amount.
Okay.
I actually know very little about the coin. I got it from a family member who purchased it at an auction about 30 years ago.
The ancient coin that turned Kevin's life around. A family member had passed down the coin to Kevin through a will. This relative had purchased it at an auction 30 years ago. Kevin believed it was worth something significant, even though he didn't know much about the coin itself. What he did know was that it was an ancient Greek coin, likely minted around 400 BC in the Greek city-state of Syracuse, which is now part of modern-day Sicily. Coins from that era were known for their impressive technical craftsmanship and aesthetic quality.
It's a little weird. I can guarantee you it's from the Eastern Mediterranean.
Okay.
And literally hundreds, if not over 1,000 coins like this. Different city-states, different countries, Greece, Sicily. They put their own faces on it and everything else like that.
Coins weren't particularly rare, especially coins like this one. These were likely used as payment for ancient Greek mercenaries and were almost certainly from the Eastern Mediterranean. There were plenty of coins like these around, but Kevin's coin was unusual. It was bigger than the typical ones from that period. According to Rick, there weren't many large ones like this. Kevin had stumbled upon a rare find.
These things go from anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000.
I could live with that.
But there's 500 fakes for everywhere. 1,000 years ago, cities were making their own coins. And most large coins like this didn't survive. That city was conquered. They'd usually take all those coins.
While Rick agreed that Kevin's coin was a big deal, he wasn't about to dismiss the possibility that it could be fake. For every authentic coin, there were hundreds of fakes floating around. Kevin could walk out of the store with thousands of dollars, or with nothing. His family member had purchased it at an auction, so it should be authentic. But with items like this, you just never know. You really never know.
Completely honest, was hoping about 20 grand. And like you said, between 10 and 100, or at the low end, I could probably go higher.
You know, my big concerns are it's in really good shape.
No, absolutely.
Okay, really well. Most of these coins, the figure on the front, on the back, are way off center because they had the coin dies.
Uh-oh. Rick started to think the coin might be fake because it seemed too good to be true. Ancient coins like this should show some wear, scars, marks, something. But this one was flawless. How had it survived all these years and remained in perfect condition? To Rick, it was most likely a dud. Kevin, however, insisted it was the real deal. With no paperwork to back it up, the best thing to do was bring in an expert for a closer look.
The Syracuse decadrachm.
I just know there's like 500 fakes of these for every real one.
The decadrams of Syracuse are the most sought after of all ancient coins. So if this is real, this is a home run.
What year?
100 to 360 BC, right in that range.
The expert, David, quickly identified the coin as a Syracuse decadrachm, made from 43 grams of silver. These coins were among the most sought after of all ancient currencies. If this coin was real, Kevin had just stumbled upon a small fortune. The figure on the front of the coin was Arethusa, a water nymph. Fresh water was so crucial to the Greeks that they often symbolized it with nymphs. The Syracuse decadrachm was widely considered one of the most beautiful coins in history.
If it's real, it's worth a pretty penny. Okay, I have news. It's absolutely genuine. Absolutely genuine.
That's awesome.
The features line up. It's great metal quality. The strike is excellent. And cast counterfeits have soapy look to them. On this coin, everything was razor sharp.
Kevin did not see that coming. $50,000. That was twice what he had bargained for. Even rarer than the coin itself was the discovery that such a flawless item was actually authentic. Wow. Kevin was so excited, he almost wanted to hug David. What a happy day. Now, though, he had to go back to the bargaining table and see what Rick would offer.
I'll give you 35 grand for it, which is more than you were looking to get for earlier.
But then I'm leaving like
You're not leaving anything on the table. You know who's going to buy it?
not personally, but
Maybe 1 out of 1,000 people will spend $50,000 on a collectible something or the other.
I mean, 50,000 down to 30, that we can meet in the middle somewhere.
Kevin walked out of the store $40,000 richer. The person who had willed the coin to him must have really cared about him. Isn't it funny, though? That money, spent in a completely different part of the world and in a completely different age, had earned him this much today. Kevin was over the moon. He was already making plans to add some of it to the kids' college fund and maybe even take a vacation.
Hello, how can I help you?
Hi, to see if maybe you'd be interested in purchasing this.
Oh, wow.
Are you a closet samurai or something?
No. I'm here at the pawn shop today, hopefully to sell 16th century katana ceremonial sword.
The samurai sword that surprised everyone. From the question Rick asked her, it was clear he knew exactly what the sword was. It was a 16th century ceremonial katana that Debbie's father-in-law had brought back from World War II when he was stationed in Japan. And here's the cool thing about katana swords. After the war, their production was banned by the occupying forces. So for Debbie to own one was kind of a big deal.
I think this sword is really, I'm looking to get 10,000.
It's a great piece of history. During World War II, there was this whole thing called the spoils and war prizes. Might sound a little strange now, but it just goes back thousands of years. I mean, that was part of pay. If you went to battle, you got to take a few prizes home.
Samurai swords were one of the prized items that soldiers stationed in Japan often brought back from the war. It's definitely a striking thing to bring home. Debbie adds that the Japanese inscription on the sword indicates it was used to behead Christians. But Rick wasn't so sure about that. He'd never heard of the Japanese beheading Christians. Maybe they'd need an expert to come in and translate the inscription properly.
Can we see the blade on this thing?
Do you mind if I take it apart?
Absolutely.
Please. There's a little excitement in here. Ooh, check out the blade sword. Don't be touching that, Rick. You know better than that. What did I tell you over the years?
What if you taught me?
Touch that with your hands.
Katanas were made with a specialized steel called tamahagen, which means jeweled steel. So that blade right there was crafted from jeweled steel. chum, who was quite knowledgeable about swords, confirmed that the sword was really old and had definitely been used. It was the real deal. There was no doubting that.
I definitely find it interesting. What were you looking to do with it?
Sew it.
How much you want for it?
10,000.
Okay. To be perfectly honest, I have no idea what it's worth. It's in need of conditioning, I'll tell you that.
Yes.
With these things, I have a friend who knows everything about them. That's who I call.
Debbie wanted $10,000 for the sword. She knew it was worth something. She understood the sword's history and believed it was worth that amount. Rick also knew a lot about the sword, but he wasn't sure if her price was accurate. So he decided to call in an expert. On Pawn Stars, the introduction could go either really well for you or really badly. But Debbie was looking forward to Rick bringing in the expert to learn more about the sword.
Well, it's got some writing on the blade, huh? Seeing anything good down there?
So this blade is actually very interesting because during the 1800s, there was a great rebellion and a civil war. The factions were trying to take over Japan. This blade was made in 1860 by Nagahiro.
Now, this was an expert. Emperor Komei had been the leader of Japan during the Boshin Civil War, which lasted from 1863 to 1869. Mike confirmed that the blade was made in 1863 by Nagahiro and had been given to the Lord of Choshu to protect Japan from enemies of the emperor. So, it wasn't just a regular sword brought back from a war. It was historically significant. Mike also pointed out that while the sword wasn't necessarily used to behead Christians, it had been used to behead or kill anyone who had antagonized the emperor at the time.
Okay, so big question, what's it worth?
Well, in its present condition and the fact that it has very high historical value, I'd say probably worth about $10,000.
Wow.
All right, thanks, man.
When Debbie had called her price of $10,000 earlier, she hadn't truly believed she'd get that amount. But now, with Mike confirming that the sword was actually worth it, she felt more confident. Mike explained that it was a very unique item and would be a great addition to the shop. The sword had been owned by a lord. Of course it was unique.
5? Can you make money at that?
Yeah, I can. I make a little too much money. The fact of the matter is, I don't take advantage of people. 5,000 is just too low. I will give you $6,000. I would go more, but this is a multi-year project here, most likely. So, assuming 6,000 is fine, since you wanted 5.
Yes, 6,000 is good.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
We don't know which was more shocking, that Debbie was willing to drop the price to $5,000 after hearing it was worth $10,000, or that Rick volunteered to increase the offer by $1,000. Debbie was over the moon. She had never expected to get this much money today.
Hey, a rifle, huh?
Well, get it out.
It's not a rifle. Sword.
Yeah, sir. It's a very old sword. I got this from my grandfather. He recently passed away. He willed it to me. I don't know much about this sword, just that it's worth a lot of.
The Russian sword that surprised Alex. Alex's grandfather had willed him this antique Russian saber. He had no use for it, obviously, and was hoping to sell it for $40,000. That price showed Alex was confident the sword was valuable, and he was right. In Russian history, swords were seen as symbols of power and status. Up until the 20th century, the saber had been the most used edged weapon in Russia. Alex had a valuable piece in his hands.
It's got some very cool detail. The head of Medusa, like a lion right here, a date of 1810 on it, some Russian writing. Let's take it out here. Ooh, that's nice.
Careful, it is.
Yeah, that's really weird there. That's Arabic writing.
The sword had some pretty cool details. It was very ornate, featuring the head of Medusa and a lion. The date 1810 was written on it in Russian script. It was also pretty sharp. To add to the mystery, there was Arabic writing on the blade. So now, it was a bit confusing. Arabic and Russian? Where exactly had this blade come from, and how much could it be worth?
40,000 seems like a stretch. Do you know how much Grandpa paid for it?
I actually don't. My uncle was telling me, though, that he did pay a pretty penny for it.
Well, this blade is so nice, and the sword is so ornate. It's too much going on here for me to decipher. To have someone come in and take a look at it, especially if you're asking like $40,000.
Of course.
They both agreed to let the expert come in to determine the authenticity of the sword. Alex was on board with this because even if he didn't make a deal today, he would have learned enough about the sword's history, which would help him sell it better in the future. Smart plan.
It's not the Holy Grail, but this thing is pretty mysterious.
Wow, I know this sword.
At least one of us does.
Well, this is actually, it's like a significant sword.
Really?
Do you mind if I touch it?
Go for it, yeah.
Sword belonged to a Russian prince. That name, Ivan Ivanovich.
The expert called in was Alex Cranmer, the CEO of International Military Antiques. He recognized the sword on site as historically significant and seemed thrilled to have seen it. The sword had belonged to Russian Prince Ivan Ivanovich Odoevsky, who was killed at the Battle of Brienne in France by Napoleon's troops. So, Alex owned a sword that had belonged to a war hero. The Arabic writing indicated it came from Persia. It was both a ceremonial and battle sword. Apart from its beauty and ornateness, the sword had balance and weight and could easily take an arm off.
But it does have a ceremonial feel to it, right?
You're completely fancy as they couple. I mean, it's really second to none.
I've never seen you...
It's just, you know, you hear about these things, you never really think you're gonna like walk in and see it.
What kind of value do you think this has?
So here's the thing, the sword sold at auction for
Alex's eyes widened when he heard the price, $75,000 to $100,000. This guy had been asking for $40,000 when he came in. Mr. Cranmer's reaction to the sword was enough proof that it was something truly special. But hearing the amount it was worth, that was something else. Alex was shocked. His grandfather had willed him a fortune.
I'd love to offer you $50,000 for this, possibly even more, but it sold once in an open market, and it didn't come anywhere close to the reserve expecting. It's a dangerous territory for me.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do that, especially after what he just said.
Don't blame me, man.
Now that makes me think that I should find the right auction for it.
All right, well, thanks for coming in.
Listen, I appreciate
Alex had somehow predicted this would happen. He didn't sell it, but he learned so much more about the sword's actual value. This could earn him almost $100,000. There was no way on earth he would sell it for $20,000. This was the sword of a prince, come on. We just hope he finds the right auction and gets the best deal for that Russian sword.
And I noticed a little antique shop with a weird trailer out front, so I'm gonna go inside and see what they got.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
All right, just looking around.
Sure.
Unfortunately, even when I'm on vacation, I can't help myself. I'm always looking for deals. One of the weird things about random antique shop, never know what you'll find. It might just be completely full of junk.
The samurai helmet worth thousands. Rick was on a solo trip, and when he got to Utah, he pulled into a town named Hurricane. On his way to get some food, he stumbled upon a little antique shop with a trailer out front and decided to step in. Inside, he found a 110-year-old working piano. Yes, it was working perfectly fine.
So what would you take for it?
It'd have to be more than $10,000.
That's a little more than I want to pay.
Well, I'd be in trouble if I sold it. I give it to my wife for her birthday.
How much do you love your wife?
A lot.
Okay. What this place has got going for it, it's pretty damn big, so there might be that one little treasure stashed in the corner somewhere.
It was an antique store, so there were bound to be more valuable items than a decade-old piano. So Rick let the piano go since the owner mentioned it now belonged to his wife. If you were going to sell your wife's birthday gift and the buyer thought $10,000 was too much for it, then there was no point in risking a sale. Rick decided to look around the store for more items.
Simon, I don't know anything about it. Looks like some sort of helmet.
Samurai helmet, it looks like. You're asking $300 for it. I probably shouldn't tell you this, but you're not asking nearly enough for this thing. He had a price for $300. I have a conscience. I believe in karma. I had to tell him what it was worth, because it could retail for as much as $2,500.
He found something, a samurai helmet, and the price tag read $300. The store owner didn't even know what the item was, so Rick had to tell him and also let him know that the price was way too low. The helmet could retail for as much as $2,500? Can you believe that? That's almost 10 times what he was asking for it.
With the samurai helmet, I was really surprised that it was worth that much. That blew me away. I think the customer that has it on consignment will be thrilled.
This is actually really cool. This is a samurai helmet from late Edo period.
When is that?
Early 1600s to basically 1868, I believe, somewhere right around in there.
Samurai helmets were used as early as 1181 AD and were made up of over 100 metal parts. The samurai were the equivalent of dukes and earls in England. They were pretty important. Over the years, Rick had seen a lot of samurai helmets and swords, so he'd done his research, enough to be able to point one out when he saw it. The owner of the antique store, Fred, should probably do the same if he plans to make more money off this business.
So what will you take for it?
Well, I think after what I've learned about it today, I think we gotta have at least 2 for it.
1,500?
Come on, you can do better than that. 17.
I'll go 16.
1650.
All right, 1650.
All right, let's go write it up.
Usually I say that.
Everything looked right on the helmet. The details were all intact, and it appeared to be in great condition. Rick was eager to buy it, and after some negotiation, he and Fred settled on a price of $1,650. Now, this was a story Fred was definitely going to go home and tell his wife. Could it be that there were more underpriced treasures hidden in his store? He'd better get an expert to check them out. But for today, he was lucky that Rick walked in, and he made the most unexpected sale ever.